Women of Reddit, what is the creepiest way that a stranger has tried to come on to you? Guy who showed me what our future kids would look like via some face app. Guy who I served in a bar I worked at when I was 18. He told me he was going to walk behind that bar and finger you until you effing finish. He was in his 50s. He did not finger me, as I threw him out and barred him. Old lady here. Asked an even older man about the right kind of bit for a particular piece of material I wanted to cut, since we were both in the power tool aisle. He told me which one to buy and then immediately asked if he could kiss me. After telling him no and quickly walking away, I see him just a few minutes later pushing a cart with a female companion I believe was his wife or girlfriend.
If the girls have to wear the new uniform, then the boys will too. Many years ago, I worked in a small coffee shop on a university campus. Work was great. We had fun and loved the owners. Unfortunately, after 2 years of working there, they retired. New owner came in, put up multiple cameras, and used to proposition the girls, we were all university students, so 17, 21 years old, that they would get extra shifts if they went home with him. If you argued back then, you got your work hours cut down the bare minimum. A couple of months in, he decides that he's going to change the uniform. Our uniform was just a loose black polo shirt with the cafe logo, black pants, and closed shoes. Standard coffee shop staff attire. He decides that the uniform will change, but only for the girls. Now the girls will wear a midriff top with the cafe logo and low-rise pants. The boys still get to wear the old uniform. We argued that it was unsafe. Hot coffee and plates of food next to bare skin, and got told too bad. So sad. Staff got together and hashed out a plan. The first day of the new uniform, the girls showed up in the old uniform. The boys showed up in the midriff tops and the low-rise pants. The new uniform policy lasted an hour. Boss was not impressed. No one lost their job because our coffee shop was right next to the law faculty. One of the students had already had a conversation with her lecturer about what was going on. I'm pretty sure that if we'd been fired for non-compliance with uniform, the boss would have found himself in far more trouble. I got revenge on my bully. In school, I was relentlessly bullied. 2 girls in particular had it out for me. I was shy, loved to read, didn't do the popular stuff, so I was the perfect victim. They'd literally torture me by holding me down in the staircase when we were alone and sticking pinboard pins into my arms, legs, and feet. Well, I finally got my revenge. I went to try out a new ice cream shop, and lo and behold, one of the girls was serving the ice cream. I have multiple allergies, including milk and gluten, of which the ice cream shop claimed to be cautious. So I ordered gluten and dairy-free ice cream, and set my phone camera up to film the area where the ice cream was prepared because I saw that the girl had recognized me and was certain she'd try something, and she did. I caught her on camera putting a spoonful of milk in the bottom of the bowl and crumbling the gluten-consisting wafers over everything, then camouflaging it with the last scoop of ice cream. She put it down in front of me and said, "I hope you enjoy it." I sweetly smiled at her and asked if she could get the owner of the shop because I wanted to thank her for being so welcoming to guests with allergies. I showed the owner the video and told her that I'd like to press charges. Bully will never work anywhere where she'll come in contact with food again, and she'll have this on her criminal record for years.
What's the worst thing you did as a horny teen? I was in theater, and during plays, we would have to run to a tiny area and change clothes. They had a small separator in the middle for boys and girls, but it wasn't uncommon for someone in a hurry to step out mid-change in a rush to not miss their entrance. During one show, I was in freshman year, I was going in to change and saw hot senior girl walking out with her skirt a little too high, and I caught a glance of her vag for a brief second. I then proceeded to rush to the bathroom and rub one out, and after I finished, I changed and missed my entrance by 3 to 5 minutes. So I walked on stage and improv'd my way back into the scene, told everyone I had gotten sick and threw up, and then rushed back on stage. Everyone applauded me and praised my dedication to the theater. 10 out of 10. Would jerk again.
What's the dumbest thing you've done out of pure horniness? On weekends during high school, I frequently would sneak out of the house and sneak into my girlfriend at the time's parents' house. Well, I didn't have a car or a driver's license at the time, and the only car I could use was my mom's standard Toyota Camry. This led to many situations of me being stalled out on a hill at 3 a.m. with no driver's license, but I did learn how to drive standard quite well. My mom was really confused by that. Also, sometimes I would tell my parents I was staying the night with a friend and have my parents drop me off at school for my friends to pick me up. Well, my GF at the time lived about a mile from school, so I would just walk to her place. But when I would spend the night, I would have to hide in the closet, leave by 5 a.m. because her dad always came and checked on her before he left for work. So, that led to a couple instances of sleeping in the closet, but the best/worst was when I had to leave, but no place to stay. So before this situation, my buddy was able to obtain a copy of the key to the guy's locker room, and I happened to have it that night. So after being kicked out of her place and, of course, getting my rocks off, I walked back to school and managed to sneak into the locker room.
Truck drivers, what's a creepy story you've got from the middle of nowhere? My great uncle drove big trucks. Living in the middle of nowhere, sometimes people would leave trash on the road. And since he had a big truck, he'd just smash into said boxes or paper and continue on. One day he was coming up on a cardboard box and just had the urge to swerve and miss this one. He misses it and passes by with no incident. Looks in his rear view to look at the box, and out pops a kindergarten-aged little kid that just heads back to their house as nothing happened. Years ago, I read about a guy who was riding with his truck driver father as a child. They were in the middle of nowhere, and they were coming up on a person laying in the road with no one else around, no cars, etc. His dad blew the horn, they didn't move. He blew it again as he got closer, they didn't move. He told his son to put his head down and cover his eyes, and he ran the person over. When they looked back, a bunch of people who were previously hiding were running out of the woods, and the gist was that his dad knew it was a setup for a robbery or worse, and wasn't chancing it with his child.
What's the cringiest thing you've seen a bride do at her wedding? Ask money to fund their expensive honeymoon. A close friend of mine wanted a grand honeymoon after their wedding. She got these ideas on social media, where people spend a week in the Bahamas. She is an aspiring Instagram influencer and would do anything to look expensive. She even shared how excited she is for their Bahamas trip and even shared to her followers where they will stay at a 5-star hotel. The time she is getting close to her wedding, she sends us a registry link to the products she wants. Wedding registry is basically a wish list for wedding couples, and they send it out to their guests who wish to give them a gift. Anyway, her registry was absurd expensive. She listed a lot like a $3,000 coffee machine. None of them drink coffee, and $3,000 Hermes blankets. I thought she was out of her mind until the wedding, where at the reception, she told everybody that they will pass a little bucket for us to put cash to fund their Bahamas trip and that it is mandatory. She wants it fully paid off, and it was a total of $12,000 trip. I was shocked because looking at the guests, none of them were willing to fund the trip. I found out they only got $300.
What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? One of my former coworkers loaded in an SD card with a scanned project file on it. He put it into the conference room PC. We were treated to explicit pictures of his wife doing it with another guy. We were just stunned. This was in a senior budgetary meeting with the outside accountants and auditors, and he was sitting right there and we were looking at his wife and another guy going at it. I reached over and shut the projector off. Nobody said anything. He got up and walked out and drove off in his car, left his phone and laptop sitting on the table. He wound up driving to his parents' house 3 states away. He was gone for a week.
What is it like to have Mark Cuban as an investor in your startup from Shark Tank? I taped for the show Shark Tank and ultimately got a deal with Cuban. My episode never ended airing, which I believe was because we never closed the deal with Cuban. After we taped, his people got in contact with us and sent us line items of requirements and other information. The contract: he would own 20% of the company and pay $150,000. No salary for the founders, only yearly disbursements. If anyone decides to sell shares, Cuban gets first rights to purchase them. If we decide to go for more funding, Cuban gets right to purchase 20% of raising. The $150,000 will be given to us as we need. If we are on brink of bankruptcy or file, he gets first rights to buy our assets such as patents we had. We must update weekly on expenses and reports for them. If we want to expand, we must contact them for approval. Basically, his 20% share was giving him full control of the company. We didn't start the company and build it to $850,000 revenue in 3 years to work for someone. He isn't working and putting his sweat, blood, and tears to bust his ass. He is putting in $150,000 that is being dispersed in small allotments. 70% of deals on Shark Tank fall through after the episode is taped. Don't believe the BS you see.
Good morning, sir. How can I assist you? Sir?
Did I get in the wrong line?
No, this is the right one, sir.
You asked me if I need assistance. That implies that I need a service. I'm not here for a service. I'm here to purchase a product. I am here to purchase coffee.
Oh, well, I do brew the coffee for you, which is a service.
No, not necessarily, because if you had a self-serving option, then I would just go ahead and do that. But I'd still be purchasing the product, which is what I'm trying to do.
Okay, would you like to buy a coffee?
Okay, now we're making more sense. All right, I'll have the Robusta variety.
Okay, great.
Do you know where that's from?
This one's from Gambia, sir.
Okay, all right. You're redeeming yourself a bit.
So happy to hear that.
And I'll have that at pH 6.
Oh, like pH level? So you want milk, or?
Yes, that's what that means.
What is the most unprofessional thing a doctor has said to you? I had severe acne, and the conventionally attractive young female doctor with perfect skin and a full face of makeup refused to prescribe me something, and instead told me that I shouldn't feel bad about having acne because appearance didn't matter and personality is all that counts. While I did agree with her, I still wanted to fix my face from the horrible, disgusting red spots everywhere. It took me several years to find a doctor who took me seriously, got my hormonal levels tested, and put me on a hormone balancer, but that one woman was by far the worst. I went home and cried after she said that.
As a student, what is the saddest thing you have found out about your teacher? The entire class stood outside the door waiting for him to unlock it like he did every class. We stood there waiting and waiting. Even the late kids were now there at this point. The teacher had never been this late. After around 15 minutes, the principal lets us in the classroom. We all sat down in our chairs wondering what was going on. Then it came. The principal stood up and said something that shocked us all. "Your teacher, Mr. M, has passed away." The room went silent. We were all shocked. It was as if lightning has just struck every person in that room at once. The man couldn't have been more than 43 years old, and he didn't look sick when we had seen him 2 days prior. God, the silence. The principal then explained that Mr. M had been sick for a while with pancreatitis. He never expected to live to an old age and had prepped the staff in case this event ever occurred. Some kids started crying, others asked questions, and some just sat there in silence. We were eventually all sent home early. Mr. M was my 11th grade film teacher. This man was one of the main reasons I am pursuing a career in film editing today. He was the one who started the spark.
What did a teacher say that made you immediately walk out of the classroom? Gym class, swimming. We were told from day one that if we did not dress out and swim on swim day we would fail the class. No excuses even for periods. And we had to swim with the boys. I love swimming, so I had no desire to avoid it. But on swim day, on the way to the pool, the boys all started grabbing us all by the butts and breasts and the coach seemed to egg it on by pushing us into a tiny lobby by the pool. Us girls were all screaming and fighting but the coach laughed and called us prissies. I immediately ran back to the locker room to get dressed. After that, every swim day I refused to dress out. My mother supported my decision. I was threatened every day with failure. I did not care. But then my friend, who was a shy, quiet, good girl said she could not swim because her periods were so heavy she was very sick. The coach forced her to run bleachers until the passed out. I saw it because I also had to run bleachers for refusing to dress out. After that, I started all-out war against the coach and convinced most of the girls to refuse dressing out. I refused to finish the physical fitness test. Every test. My husband is attracted to my daughter. TLDR, I made my daughter leave after finding out my husband is attracted to her. I, 55, have been married to my husband and my daughter's stepdad, 63, for 4 years. My 23-year-old daughter and I have a complicated relationship. She has been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. She has a lot of trauma from watching me and my husband's horrible marriage go down and was bullied in school. When she told me she was being bullied by peers, my view that all children are innocent really tied my hands because I told her that if I said anything to them, I would be an adult harassing a child. She has blamed me for that ever since. And keeps referring to this one time where the kids at school called her trash due to the fact that she wasn't taking care of her hygiene due to depression. Part, not all, of my response was telling her to take a shower and I bought her new clothes. The bullying finally ended with an expulsion and a suspension for the ringleaders. She still throws the fact that a school clinic volunteer told her that if she was their kid she'd have permission to punch back if administrators didn't do anything. I thought that having her live with me while she finishes school and gets a job would help heal some childhood wounds if my second husband and I modeled a healthy relationship. However, my daughter now doesn't get along with women of Reddit. What was something you didn't know about men till you got with one? Morningwood. Had absolutely no idea that thing just pops up every night till I started dating my first boyfriend. That whole thing about the weight of their heart being their stomach? Accurate. I once hooked up with a guy I met on Tinder, made him breakfast the next morning. He said no woman had ever cooked for him before, looked teary, and now we're married. How rarely they get complimented. I told my guy that I loved his shirt and he didn't even know what to say. He told me he couldn't remember the last time someone complimented him, so I've started looking for little, random things to compliment him on. Has a black person bullied you for being white? My younger daughter came back to our car crying once when we were at Aldi. I asked her what was wrong as all she had done was to take the cart back while I was rearranging some stuff in the back. My daughter told me that she offered her cart to the next person walking up as we often do and the man told her, I don't need no charity from a fat, stuck up, white racist, stupid beach like you. I can afford my own cart. My sweet daughter was 15 at the time and had a low self-esteem from being slightly overweight and also from kids teasing her at school because she has dyslexia and reading is slow as a result. I saw red that day and marched back into Aldi to find that man, which wasn't hard because there were only 4 customers in the store and only 2 were black, a very large man and a little old lady. I was livid and honestly didn't care what he thought of me. I asked him how dare he make a sweet young girl cry when all she was doing was being polite. Then I asked how dare he call her what he called her, repeating it all word for word. I told him he was a disgusting human being judging other by the color of their skin like he did. As I was leaving, the little old black lady started berating him, claiming people like him are the reason black people get reputations as being lower class. Redditors who have gotten genetic tests, what's the weirdest thing you learned from your DNA? This one's my mom, so I guess about me too. My mom took a DNA test for fun and saw that she was almost 50% Middle Eastern. For reference, her mom is Brazilian and her dad is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white man. Growing up, she always thought she just came out extra dark. Turns out that my grandpa had a vasectomy before my grandparents married, and instead of getting a sperm donor, my grandparents concocted a plan for my grandmother to essentially seduce a coworker. She then got pregnant, had my mom, and that coworker became my mom's godfather and a very close friend of both my grandparents. Her godfather assumed she always knew and never mentioned it. She, in fact, did not know. So I learned that we are very much not white at all, and my mom's godfather is my biological grandfather. My mom's godfather was completely aware of the situation and consented. He just wanted to sleep with my grandmother at the time, so he wasn't really bothered by the plan. So,
what did you find out about your husband only after you got married? All the time we were together before, I probably would have said I would have liked a little more traditional romance. But I appreciated how straightforward and pragmatic he was about other things and thought I can't have it both ways. I could add that he is a theoretical physicist who works with engineers, and he has the personality to match. He always said he thought marriage was essentially meaningless. Eventually, for external reasons, we decided to do it. We threw together a cheap little ceremony in a few weeks to get it over with, as we both put it. He put on his suit, I put on my pretty dress, we had the officiant there and got started. However, when it came time for the vows and the ring exchange, I suddenly found myself facing a very sentimental man, who was clearly deeply in love with me and overjoyed to be marrying me. After that, the same man who took years to feel comfortable holding my hand in public for even 5 minutes was hugging and kissing me in front of everyone at every moment he could during the ceremony. Then he wanted to celebrate every week anniversary, then every month anniversary with romantic dinners and having the same cake we had at our wedding. He starts celebrating at 12:01 a.m. on our anniversaries.
What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? One of my former coworkers loaded in an SD card with a scanned project file on it. He put it into the conference room PC. We were treated to explicit pictures of his wife doing it with another guy. We were just stunned. This was in a senior budgetary meeting with the outside accountants and auditors, and he was sitting right there and we were looking at his wife and another guy going at it. I reached over and shut the projector off. Nobody said anything. He got up and walked out and drove off in his car, left his phone and laptop sitting on the table. He wound up driving to his parents' house 3 states away. He was gone for a week.
Am I the asshole for telling my soon-to-be mother-in-law that my engagement ring is cursed? I, female 26, just got engaged. My soon-to-be mother-in-law is a nightmare. We are currently renovating a part of our place, and she has been lent a key in the meantime because she keeps coming over uninvited under the guise of helping clean up, but she really just likes to snoop and interfere. I do martial arts and take my engagement ring off before class. I came home from an afternoon class one day, and my engagement ring was not in the jewelry dish that I leave it in. I asked her about it, and she told me that she'd taken it to a jeweler to get it cleaned. She looked super smug about it, and when I asked which jeweler, she pretended she couldn't remember. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of having a reaction to it, so I just let it slide for a couple of days. A couple of days pass, and I ask her about it again, and she's super vague, still pretending she can't remember which jeweler and saying she's too busy to go pick it up anytime soon.
What's your personal butterfly effect story? My aunt was always on time to everywhere. It's trauma left over from her childhood. She lived in the Bronx and worked in Lower Manhattan, so she usually had to get up pretty early to get to work on time. One night, the power in her building went out. No idea why it was the only building in the area affected. Her digital alarm had reset when the power came back on, so her alarm did not wake her up. She woke up with 30 minutes before she should be at work. Panicking, she got ready and ran to the subway. The subway by her apartment was having maintenance issues and she got stuck for 20 minutes 3 stops away. For the first time in her life, she called into work sick, saying she'd be in too late and would work overtime the next day. She walked back to her apartment and fell asleep. She woke up about 4 hours later when one of my other aunts was pounding on her door. My other aunt was hysterical because she hadn't been answering her phone. And that's how a weird electrical mishap caused my aunt's alarm clock to reset, making her late, missing her train, meaning she avoided being in the building next to the World Trade Center on 9/11.
What's the worst thing you did as a horny teen? I was in theater, and during plays we would have to run to a tiny area and change clothes. They had a small separator in the middle for boys and girls, but it wasn't uncommon for someone in a hurry to step out mid-change in a rush to not miss their entrance. During one show, I was in freshman year, I was going in to change and saw hot senior girl walking out with her skirt a little too high, and I caught a glance of her vag for a brief second. I then proceeded to rush to the bathroom and rub one out, and after I finished, I changed and missed my entrance by 3 to 5 minutes. So I walked on stage and improv'd my way back into the scene, told everyone I had gotten sick and threw up, and then rushed back on stage. Everyone applauded me and praised my dedication to the theater. 10 out of 10. Would jerk again.
I've become less affectionate with her, in public and in private. She's been increasingly clingy, asking me to stay with her when I leave, texting me a lot, sometimes multiple times in the space of 10 minutes. I'm enjoying this. I want to see what happens when I pull the rug out from under her. I'm going to give it another month before I end it. I'm going to send her parents of the video doing something and explain that I can't stay with her. She doesn't make enough to pay for tuition, so she will probably have to drop out or suspend her semester. She works at the campus Muslim student ASOC, so I'll send them some evidence too, so she'll lose her job. I don't really know how effective this last thing will be, but I'll send evidence to her friends too, as she lets this guy talk bad about other people in her life, and even agrees with him. And then I'll ghost her. That's it. No family, no education, no job, no friends, no boyfriend. She destroyed our future, so I'm going to destroy hers. I think the grief will probably hit some time after that, but not that much. She said some devastating things about me to him, all of which were untrue or very exaggerated, but I can't get the thought out of my head that she has this false image of me, and that there was never any respect there in the first place. You can't love someone and do what she did. I don't love her anymore. I hate her. I loved what we had in the past. We had in the past. We had in the past. We had in the past.
AITA for ruining both my parents' marriages for disowning me? I am the byproduct of my parents' extramarital affair. Both of them had spouses at the time. My birth mother got pregnant and had to tell her husband as he was overseas when I was conceived, so there was no way I was his. A few months after I was born, they decided not to divorce. I was given to my grandparents on my mother's side to raise, with my birth father secretly paying child support without his wife's knowledge. Both my parents had other children. My dad's side knows nothing about me, but my siblings on my mom's side were told that I am adopted by my grandparents. Recently I decided that I wanted to know more about my dad's family, and I sent a friend's request to one of my siblings and my dad so I could get to know him. Well, he freaked out and contacted my birth mom, and they asked to speak to me over Skype. They both told me that they couldn't risk staying in contact with me and told me that they were going no contact and to please respect it and move on with my life. Well, I did pretty much the opposite. I contacted my dad's wife and shared screenshots of our conversations and told her everything. She is now divorcing him, while on my mother's side I told both my siblings, who then went on to tell extended family including her husband's side, so now they are separate and my siblings hate my mother. Currently my siblings on both sides' lives have been upturned, and after the satisfaction has worn off I feel like I unnecessarily hurt them through my parents. AITA for ruining my parents' marriages?
Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country, to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation, and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. Duh, I didn't want to be douchey and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night, on a work assignment, and I asked if she would please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 a.m., and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood "will you please wash my dog," and apparently didn't find that a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seemed she'd had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 23 years. I dumped my girlfriend after she told me about her sexual past in college. To make a long story short, we were playing a drinking game with some friends and she admitted to having at least 2 threesomes during college and sleeping with around 13 guys. To be honest, I never asked her about her past before, cause I just thought it was whatever. But damn, something about hearing that made me squeamish. I don't think I'll ever recover, honestly. I know some people are gonna call me a misogynistic or a shamer, but I honestly couldn't care less. I knew I could never recover or move past what I heard. I broke up with her next day and said I hope you find someone right for you one day. She obviously started crying and she's still texting me, but I'm already mentally checked out. I'm 24, so I know I got a full life ahead of me.
I can't sleep in the same room as my boyfriend when I'm at your house? Fine, we won't sleep there. I was a recent college graduate who had made the immoral choice to move in with a boyfriend without getting married. We moved in together in another state, about a 6-hour drive from my parents, who lived about 2 hours away from the boyfriend's parents. When we came back to visit, my parents made us sleep in separate rooms, beds, because we weren't married. After a visit or two like this, Christmas holiday rolled around. We were planning to be in the state for the whole week between Christmas and New Year's, splitting the time between the two families. We start by spending 2 nights at my parents', then around dinner time, the 3rd day, we leave to head to his parents'. My parents are surprised and confused that we are not staying longer. They expected us to split the time evenly. My reply, well, at his parents' house we get to sleep together, so we want to spend the night there. Bye. Before the next visit, they let us know they have decided that since we are a committed couple, they will allow us to share a room, even though we're not married.
Kids who just graduated high school, did anything crazy happen at your graduation? Yeah. I hit my pen when they called my name and my principal slapped me. I'm a senior in high school, and I've always been a bit of a troublemaker. Throughout my high school years, I've been caught smoking behind the school, skipping classes, and pulling pranks on teachers. My parents and others have had their fair share of complaints about my behavior. The day of my high school graduation finally arrives. The ceremony is held at the school's football stadium, with proud parents and family members in attendance. The air is filled with anticipation and excitement as we prepare to receive our diplomas and close the chapter on our high school lives. As I'm waiting for my name to be called to walk across the stage, I get this wild idea. I decide that, As a final act of rebellion, I'm going to hit my dab pen in front of everyone when they call my name. My friends, knowing my plan, have their phones out, ready to record the whole thing. They're egging me on, and I can't help but feel like the man. They call my name, and everyone cheers and claps as I walk toward the front of the stage. I whip out my dab pen, take a massive hit, and start screaming, "Yodi gang, you feel me? Fated than a hoe. Fated than a hoe. Paying hoe."
I messed up by wearing an inappropriate shirt to family dinner. I found this really awesome shirt while thrift shopping that said, "Take me home and feed me." It's a black shirt. Most of the letters are white, but some are a darker gray. What do I know about design? It's talking about food. I thought, oh, that's so perfect for Thanksgiving dinner coming up. So I buy the shirt for this purpose. Fast forward a few days, and I'm celebrating Thanksgiving with all of the extended family. It's evening. We've all had dinner, and the pies are starting to come out. My older brother pulls me into the kitchen for a quick word. "Hey man, what's with the shirt? Interesting choice for family dinner?" I ask him what he's talking about. I thought it was a fun Thanksgiving shirt. It clearly references food. Realizing I don't know what's going on, he starts to laugh. He pulls in one of the older cousins similar in age to him. They both start laughing. Turns out the dark gray letters were the "eed" on feed. The shirt is designed so that from a distance, you guessed it, it just says, "Take me home and F me." I wore that shirt for family photos. I am standing next to my sweet grandma with a shirt that says, "Take me home and F me." These photos will live forever on her Facebook.
R/2 horror. I asked my mom if she wanted to be buried or cremated. She only sobbed and pleaded with me to kill her first. I got a call from my father that my mom passed away today. Who am I living with? There's this girl, Jessica, in my second grade class who never participates, so I've been trying to call on her during reading time, but she never reads. I've been mildly frustrated lately until one of my students asked me why I always called on Jessica, even though there was no one named Jessica in her class.